Hey guys, how you doing? This is Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. Today is February 17th, 2019, and today's discussion happens to be what is going on with the case involving the Empire star Jussie Smollett. His character is Jamal Lyons, that he plays in the hit TV series from Fox called Empire, and since he's reported this case in January, a lot of things, a lot of twists and turns have happened that now are pointing to him potentially filing a false report and orchestrating this whole thing. So let's take it back from the beginning. Basically, January 29th, he's coming from the Subway sandwich shop up in Chicago, quote, close to where he lives at. He's accosted by two black men and who are yelling racial slurs at him. They douse him with some type of liquid. They say homophobic things to him, and they put a rope around his neck, and then they make a statement to make America great again, in reference to Donald Trump's slogan in his hats. And so he calls the police. The police come. They do initial investigation. A few days later, they uncover video of two men leaving the scene, and further investigation revealed that these two men were of Nigerian descent. And from that point on, the story takes on a whole different dimension. Now, as a former investigator, police investigator, I had to kind of ask myself, okay, let me get on this story and let me look at what information has been reported, and then let me kind of figure out from an investigative point of view, whether or not there's some holes in Jessie's story. So one of the problems, particularly talking about a street robbery or street assault. If this was some thugs in Chicago and this was going to be a street assault, quite naturally it had been a situation where if we knew this is the guy who's making money, we're just not going to beat him up. We're going to take his wallet, keys to the house, car, whatever the case may be, and leave it at that. It takes a while to beat somebody up, put some liquid on them, and tie a rope around their neck. I don't know what type of guys these are that would have done this and the kind of time frame that you would need to do all this kind of stuff and then get out of the area. So I was kind of skeptical at that point. Not saying it couldn't happen. It's just I look at the, what would happen or what could happen in terms of crimes and criminals getting away and how much time they need to commit a crime and get away at the same time. So I had to look at it from that point of view. There were some other statements too that I felt like his story was too perfect. If you guys go back and you watch some of the interviews on Good Morning America and some of these other stations out here now, CNN, you look at the interview, his interviews seem to be too perfect the way he explains them. He certainly didn't seem to be, initially when I saw it, seemed to be flustered or he was upset. He was more upset about people not believing him in terms of, and then as opposed to him being upset actually being assaulted. That was just my interpretation. You probably could make a different interpretation when you go back and review the interviews. Further information, and this is important, that these two individuals, at least one of the individuals, were known to Jussie because this guy happens to be a personal trainer. Now, Jussie says he couldn't identify them. Now, you may not be able to identify people with masks on, but certainly when they start talking, particularly people of Nigerian descent who still have an accent, you got to know that at least you should tell the police department, if you don't know what the origination of the accent, you at least tell them that there is an accent, because now that helps the police department in terms of trying to identify who these particular suspects were. But that never came out. He never even said that he heard an accent. But yet, if this particular individual, at least one of them, had worked with you and continued to work with you as a trainer, personal trainer, you would have at least heard an accent. You'd at least, and you might have even recognized the voice. Me, I tend to believe that you would have recognized the voice, but that's not what he's reporting. The two suspects then leave to go to Nigeria. Now, remember, I'm telling you this stuff, and think about it. Where is this information coming from? That these two guys were of Nigerian descent, and these two guys went to Nigeria, and on their way back from Nigeria, like a week later, they are arrested at O'Hare Airport when their plane lands. How did the police department have all this information to know when these guys were coming back from Nigeria? There's another source out there telling the police department all this information. It's just that simple. Now, When they come back and they land at O'Hare Airport, they're immediately arrested, and then they're transported quite naturally to the police department, where these investigators, at least 12 of them that we know, are on this case. 12 officers, 12 detectives are on Jessie's case. Typically, that's unheard of, but because he's a high-profile figure, they put 12 detectives on there. So trust me, if there's a hole in Jessie's case, one of those detectives, if not all of them, are going to find that out. So they talked to the gentleman at the precinct for a couple of days. They're locked up, and 2 days later they're released with no charges at all. Mind you, you didn't know, these two gentlemen have no criminal records whatsoever, and they were released. Trust me, two black men in Chicago accosting a high-profile celebrity or public official, beating them up, first, second-degree assault. They would have never been released out of custody and would have had high bail, if not no bail, if the police department didn't have great information that, in fact, those two guys were telling the truth about their role in this particular setup that was orchestrated by Jessie. It just doesn't happen that way. I don't even know what the chances would be that two young men accused of beating up a superstar would be released 2 days later if their stories had not checked out. And trust me, the police department checked those stories out, and that's why they're walking on the streets today. So Jessie has a lot of explaining to do. Now, the police spokesperson, who I kind of know in casual meeting, his name is Anthony Guglielmi. Just a backdrop, Anthony Guglielmi was the police spokesperson for Baltimore City Police Department from 2008 to 2013, about 5 years. Excuse me. And in 2013, he had a run-in with the mayor and the police commissioner in reference to some statements that he had made regarding crime the weekend in Baltimore, where we experienced about 28 shootings and about 9 homicides in one weekend. And he came out and made a statement that, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal in his mind. And subsequently, he was asked to leave. And so Chicago Police Department hired him. So he's been working there since 2013 as a police spokesperson. That's just a backdrop on Mr. Guglielmi. Now, let's see. The police have also been talking to some other sources close to this case. And they're getting this information quite fast and quite readily. Now, the police department has also asked the attorneys for Jessie that, you know, he has to come back in and make a statement. Once they find out more information, he'll be given that opportunity to come back in and kind of, if it's a situation where they believe that he's lying, he's going to have to come back in, and they're going to have that information. And Jessie's going to have to explain himself to the local authorities. I would have looked at this case differently based upon a set of different facts and circumstances as I see it. But I'm looking at this case now, having gotten a little bit more information. And what was key to me is the releasing of these two particular suspects immediately from custody. That told me kind of like all I needed to know in terms of their role of being paid to do this to help Jessie out. Now, there's a problem for Jessie, a huge problem. Number one, his credibility will be shot in the entertainment industry if it turns out that he, in fact, orchestrated this whole thing and had these guys involved in this nonsense. Two, that he can be charged with filing a false report, and because these officers were investigating this as a hate crime. You know, you investigate this as a hate crime, and they would have to, because once he told the officers that, you know, racial slurs were made to him, homophobic slurs were said to him, they put a noose around his neck. Okay, all that stuff is hate crime elements, you know, to be charged with a hate crime if they can arrest somebody on the case. Okay, but he does a disservice not only to the black community with the statements that he made in his false report. He does a huge disservice to the gay community because, you know, he's idolized now by the gay community because of the role he plays, and not only in his personal life, but also the role on TV as Jamal Lyons. And it's bad enough that marginalized communities, whether they're gay or black, Hispanic, Latino, that they don't get enough police protection, they don't get enough police attention when certain crimes happen. Okay, and here it is, this guy who happens to be a high-profile star uses his celebrity, uses the fact that he's gay to file a false report. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. You know, and it does a disservice, as I said, does a disservice to the gay community and the black community when you do stuff like this. So he'll have a lot of explaining to do. And I will tell you right now, Jessie has hurt his career tremendously if, in fact, we find out that, in fact, this thing was staged. He can't really respond to this after, again, tying up tons and tons of taxpayers' resources and people close to him and to the show, you know, now associated with the guy who basically filed a false report in the police department. Quite naturally, if I'm wrong, this is all my opinion. If I'm wrong about the whole thing, I'll certainly come back on and make a statement and retract this particular statements I've made in this particular show. Other than that, I want to thank you guys. Let me hear your thoughts on this, okay? Because again, information is still coming out, still developing, but you got to ask yourself certain questions when you look at this thing. Just ask what follows, what makes sense in this particular case, and what doesn't make sense, and you'll kind of come to your own conclusions. If not, you know, you'll come to mine, hopefully. My name is Mike McCormick. I'm with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. I want to thank you guys for your time and attention, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I always need more subscribers. Thank you.